For this challenge, we're doing while versus for loops review. Now that we've had some practice with both for and while loops in our own words, right? Let's create a mnemonic or talk about when we'll use for loops versus while loops, right? And here, what we're going to say is what's most important is that if you know how many times you want to iterate or complete a process, or you can find out exactly how many times you want to iterate, then we'll use a for loop, right? Anything that is finite in nature, if we're iterating through a list, a tuple, a dictionary, anytime that even if the lists or the iterables are of different lengths, right? Maybe I have a list coming in and I might get a list with one object. I might get a list with 1,000 objects, right? I can check the length of that list or just iterate through that list explicitly and have a good understanding of how many times I need to iterate using my for loop, right? You also might come across a function, or we also might come across a function that says, do this 100 amount of time, or some amount of times, right? Do this 100 times. Create 100 of these random numbers using this function. And when we know that, when we know there is explicitly a number of times that we want to do something, we will opt for a for loop. Otherwise, if our continuous loop is based upon some condition and we don't know exactly when that condition will be true, then we'll opt for the while loop, right? So again, this is when we're not exactly sure, right? We might know that a Boolean flag is going to change eventually at some point, and when that happens, we'll want to stop our loop. We'll know that a numeric value might get to a point where it meets a specific condition, and when that happens, we want to stop the iteration. But we'd like to continue it until we encounter that. So for these cases where it's sort of unknown the number of times that we want to iterate, the while loop is preferable. And this is much like the previous lesson said, right? A good way to maybe make a menu if you're writing a text-based program. If you're purchasing something from a vending machine, right? Do you want to make another purchase, right? As long as that Boolean is true and the user is typing yes or hitting a yes button, right? We will want to continue to prompt them until they are done shopping and they're ready to check out. So again, if it's finite, we know how many times we'll use a for loop. And if we're depending upon some condition, numeric or otherwise, we will use the for loop.